So I went to use my earthquake chipper shredder, and the gas cap here, I couldn't turn it. So I got a block of wood, put it up against there, hit it with the hammer here, and got it loose. When I did, it opened up weird. It was all kind of crunchy, and this is what I got. Gas cap is rusted, but worse than that, it's left all kinds of rust debris in my thing here. So if I put gas in there, it's going to flush all that rust debris into my gas lines and my carburetor. So I don't want that. So we're going to see if we can take this gas tank off, clean it out, and then get this old beast running. Alright folks, I'm going to put the bolts that you need to take out to get the gas tank off right up at the very beginning, because I took off way more bolts than what I needed to for trying to figure it out. So there's this long bolt that fits through a hole over here, and you can access it with an extension. All these bolts are 8mm bolts, but you can access it by going up underneath here, and it'll come through and access that bolt right there. And then these two shorter bolts go right here and right here. One of them also attaches this piece right there, and then I'll show you where the corresponding places for these are on this gas tank. So the gas tank is going to sit in here like this. Those two short bolts are going to go through this hole and that hole, and then that longer bolt that's coming in through the muffler is going to go in that hole right there. So that hole is going to end up being right down here. So we're going to attach our hose here to this, and then this is set in there like that. We'll put those 3 bolts back in. So that's how you get this thing in and out. Alright, so we're going to start with the obvious. There's a screw here, or bolt here, and a bolt over here. We'll take those out. Alright, so we also got a bolt over here. I took out the 2 bolts that were sitting over there. The one didn't do anything, and the second one that's hanging there loosened up the gas tank. So that's the one you got to get. Alright, so there it is. Not too terribly long, but long enough to require a tool to reach in there, a pair of needle nose pliers to get that out. So anyway, now my gas tank is loose. I'll undo these hoses. This one here split. Needs to be replaced anyway. So looks like there's a gas line hose in here I'll need to pull off, and then this tank should be free. Alright, so we just had this little clip here we loosened up, moved out of the way, put a screwdriver in there, and popped that hose off, and our gas tank came right off. However, it rattles. There's a lot of rust in there. Alright, time to see if we can get this cleaned up some. Take a wire brush to that. This is my fuel filter, and obviously it's full of rust. Lots of rust coming out, but you still hear lots of rust in there. It's like getting a pick out of a guitar. Man, all kinds of big chunks of stuff in there. Look at the size of some of those chunks. I'm not a gas tank manufacturer, but you'd think there'd be something you could coat these with, keep them from rusting up like that if they're left empty. Now, I don't want to have to buy a new gas tank, so I'm bound to determine to figure out how to make this one clean. Yeah, that seemed to broke loose a bunch of new stuff. Look at that. You can hear it clunking around in there too. Alright, I think I'm done shaking this. I was gonna take and shake this out, then spray some carburetor cleaner or something in there to rinse it out, but this still got some big sounding chunks in there that can't make their way out through this hole, because when I flip it this way, the hole is above the level of this, so you got to shake it up and into the hole, and that's not real easy to do. So I'm going to take the garden hose to this. That's going to complicate my time because I'm going to have to wait to dry it out after I get it wet, but I'm going to put a garden hose in there and flush this out real good. Plus I want to make sure it doesn't leak anywhere. As much crud has come out of there. This, I'm sure, is an outer cover to the main gas tank, and I want to make sure it doesn't leak. So, garden hose time. Now, you can see all this stainless steel on here didn't rust. Now, why they didn't make this cap out of the same material that they made this stuff out of, well, I guess it's cheaper for the company. You think they'd make it out of something a little bit more durable. This machine ain't that old. And the gas tank was sealed with the cap. So whatever moisture got in there was just out of the air, humidity. But it was enough to do a number on this cap and the tank. Alright, if anything else is coming off that, the fuel filter is going to have to take care of it. Alright, you can see how dirty that was when I started. It's starting to clear up a little bit, but it's still got a lot of gunk in it. So that's obviously a lot cleaner already. Alright, so I think I'm going to take this in and see if I can't either get this piece loose or this piece loose without risking tearing them up. So again, I don't want to have to order parts for this. Alright, it looks like this thing here may screw out, which would be great because I need to check it anyway. Alright, well, that's pretty gunky. Alright, we'll take that back to the garden hose and see if we can't drain that water out that hole, get it clean. There's my hole there. Oh yeah. Plug it with my fingers so I build up some water in here. Get some pressure flowing through that hole. Alright, so I know this still looks pretty horrible. I took a wire brush to it. All the loose stuff is gone. But obviously that metal's still pretty rusted. I could soak this in something like oxalic acid or something and get rid of all the rust. Do the same thing here with the tank. The bottom of it is pretty corroded. You can see in there. Again, I can fill that up with some oxalic acid and get rid of all the rust, but I'm hoping I don't have to go through that much trouble. This little piece I took off the bottom, this is also a fuel filter. Hopefully you can see there, this part here in between these four metal parts, or these four solid parts, is a screen, right? So this is also going to filter the gas before it comes out and goes to the carburetor via this connection here. So hopefully the rust will stay in the gas tank and not get into the carburetor, and I'll be okay. At any rate, I'm going to take my chances with it. All right, I thought about drying this out, but you know what? There's shouldn't be that much water content if I fill this up with gasoline. I'm going to put a cap of seafoam in here and some gasoline, and I think I'll be all right. Again, I'm going to chance it. All right, folks, I got the gas tank back on. Again, it's all rusty still, but you know, my one piece of commentary here is I wish they'd make a gas tank that lasts as well as their sticker here, or their sticker here, or this sticker, or that sticker, or this sticker. I mean, you can see that I have not abused this machine, and it was just sitting with the cap on for a year, and like I said, the stickers are much more durable than the gas tank material apparently, and this hose here, which, you know, hoses break, but that gas tank should not have rusted like that, at least in my opinion. At least not before I wore out these stickers. At any rate, I'm going to put some gasoline in here, and I'm going to put some seafoam. I swear by seafoam. They're not paying me to say this, but I had a motorcycle that didn't want to start once because it had a little bit of water in the gasoline, and I put some seafoam in there and it saved my bacon. And ever since I've been a big believer in this. I put it in all my stuff during especially if it's going to sit over the winter time. But in a case like this where I know I've got some residual moisture in there from rinsing that tank out, I'm hoping that this stuff is going to save my bacon again, and it's going to crank right up. We'll find out. All right, we got gas coming out. So apparently that gas tank is shot. So I ordered the only gas tank that I could find that would show up for earthquake chipper shredder, and it didn't look like it would fit, but I ordered it anyway because one way or the other I was going to make it work. So I'm going to see if this thing will even mount up, if any of these holes will line up to anything. Bolts over here. The question is, yeah, see, this tank won't even go in far enough for these to get back to line up there. So there's no way this is going in there anywhere, which is okay because I ordered extra fuel line, and my intent is to basically mount this gas tank to the front of this. So I'm gonna mount it here on the front on the plastic, and then just run these fuel lines down here to where they need to go. There's a vent line here and a fuel line here. So that's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna mark these, drill some holes, and that's where it's gonna set. All right, so let's see if this will line up with anything. Put it in here, and it does not go back far enough for these mounts to connect with either of the places these two bolts go. So this will not mount in here this way. So my next thought was I was going to mount it here. This would be out of the way. Wouldn't interfere with me putting sticks and stuff in here. The only problem is, if you can hear, there's a weighted pickup on this hose line, and so it's meant to be mounted this way up and down, and it might be kind of hard to see. So when I wiggle this back and forth, you can see there's a dark area right there. That's where that pickup is. So it's meant to set on the bottom of that tank and pick up the gas. I'm going to mount this tank like this, but I'll leave it at a diagonal so that pickup is down there at the bottom. And this will make it nice, flat, and secure. And then we'll just run our hoses down to where they need to go down here and here. And I bought some extra hose because I was anticipating that I might have to do this. Alright, so the bolt that went in here I'm taking out, and the longer bolt that fit over here I'm taking out, and then this one here I'm going to see if I can screw that in the rest of the way, and to hold this condenser on there. If my holes had been bigger, I might need to put some washers on there, but I really don't think I'm going to need them. So we're just going to tighten those down and then run our fuel line. Alright, so that's secured. Alright, so I don't know what the inside diameter of those hoses are right off the top of my head. And I've got my extra hose inside the house. So what I got here is I got a drill index. And so I'm going to find the bit that is the right size for that hose. That's just a little big, but that's the size I need to grip on there tight. That one slides in pretty easy, so I'm gonna take that drill bit with me so that I can just find matching hose, and also find me something to split something to connect those, splice those together with. And actually, this fuel line down here is bigger by a couple drill bits, it looks like. Yeah, there's the drill bit that fits that. Alright, so I've got two different drill bit sizes I've got to match up. I got to match up down there, up here, so maybe I can find a splice adapter that will go from this size hose to that size hose. And if not, that size hose may just fit inside the other hose. And then we'll just put a hose clamp on it. Who knows? We'll have to see what we can scrounge up. Alright, so I ordered me a bunch of pieces, parts, some different size hose, and some stuff like these adapters to hopefully be able to hook all this hose up on my from my gas tank to the old hoses. And we're going to try to figure out which of these pieces, parts we need, so you don't have to order them all. I ordered them because even if they're not the right part for this job, they're going to be the right part for another job. So anyway, let's see if we can mix and match all this stuff. Alright, so this adapter here, it's going to fit there pretty good. Now I got to see if I can get it to fit the other end of that line. So now this line here, I believe is going to go to the corresponding air vent connection on the old tank. It basically, if you look inside here, you can see there's two hoses. One of these goes to that fill nozzle, and then the other one I think just comes up here to the top of the tank. So I think it's just a vent hose. And the other end of that went to here, which this is old when I replaced that, and it comes around over here to the side of the air filter, which confirms the fact that it's just wanting to suck clean air to the gas tank as it needs to get air into it. Otherwise, if it was sealed, as you use gas, it would create a suction and it would collapse. So I'm just going to take and this end here is a different size. So I'm going to, if I can just cut this here, cut the bad part off and connect it, that's great. If not, I know that I can adapt to this bigger size hose that fits on this end over here. Alright, so this here's some vacuum line I ordered, and it's going to fit pretty good over on this end. And then I'm going to have to connect it down here to this hose, which means I'm either going to have to use up another one of these adapters, and this will work. It's a little loose, but I think I'm going to try that fat end first. Trying to do this carefully so I don't break this plastic. And if that vacuum line hose will fit over here, then I can just run this all the way. And it might fit, but boy, it's going to be tight. You can see the inside diameters are not the same. I think I'm going to be able to squeeze it on there. That way I use up just a little bit of an extra foot of cheap hose versus one of those brass adapters. Probably a little bit of oil would have worked well to lubricate that. Now, I didn't bring any oil with me, but this thing has an oil dipstick, and it's probably a little late, but I could put a little bit on there, help the rest of this insertion. All right, I think that'll hold that. Now, this hose here just had this little aluminum tie thing going on, and so I'm going to pull that out, feed the new line back through here, bring it up to here, and we'll cut it. Put my clamp on, move it back so it's not pinching the hose yet. Attach it to this air vent. Slide the clamp up. Now that was the easy one. This one here is going to be a little trickier. And the reason it's going to be trickier is because I don't have a lot to work with here. Unless I come back over here where this goes in to my fuel shutoff valve and replace that whole thing. So once again, I may check to see what size this is. I think we'll go ahead and do that. Alright, so this hose had a little bit of shielding on it, heat shielding. It's just rubber though, so I'm not sure what it did. Maybe just vibration shielding, not so much for heat. But since I don't have to run this to the gas tank here, I'm going to run it up this way with this other hose. I may just come straight out and up. So I know this vacuum hose, automotive vacuum hose, fits up there at the top. The question is, how tight will it fit down here? It's not snug, but it might be enough to clamp on there. I'm gonna give it a go, and if it doesn't leak, then we're gonna call it good. Alright, that kind of impinges on my choke here a little bit, but not a whole lot. I think we'll be alright. Alright, put some gasoline in here and check for leaks. Alright, so we got gas down here to this valve. Alright, so I verified that this switch being up is in the right position. Alright, let's see. We got dripping here. Alright, so it wants to run when I blow in the gas tank. Alright, I'm going to back up and show you what's going on here with me blowing in this tank. Something is keeping the gas from flowing down here very well. If I blow in this tank and push gasoline down here, and then start it, it will run. Then I blow on it. guess the next thing to do is check this bowl, make sure that the bowl is filling up on the carburetor. It's the only other thing I can think of that's causing the problem. Alright, so we got our carburetor down here, and on the bottom, I don't know if I can lift this up high enough, but on the bottom of this bowl, there's a bolt. I'm going to take that bolt off, which should let this bowl drop off, and then I can check and make sure. Should be all kinds of gasoline coming out of this thing when I loosen this bolt. We'll see if there is. If there's not, then that's one clue that our bowl is going to be empty. And I don't see any gasoline coming out of that yet, so good chance that we got something wrong with this bowl. I don't know what this nut or this bolt on the side is for. It's obviously not holding it. Yeah, see, look at that. Our bowl is empty. And oh man, is it gunky. See, it's all full of that rust and stuff too. So we're going to have to take that carburetor off and probably rebuild it. Alright, so first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this air filter off. The screw here on the bottom, and then just lifts up a couple of holes here on the top, which match up with some tabs up here. Pull the air cleaner out. If I'm smart, I'd clean this while I got it out, but who knows. There's a little metal plate there. Now this thing has two holes and then two sides that don't have holes, and might be kind of hard to see, but when you look up in here, there's 4 posts. 2 posts have prongs on it that these holes fit over, and the other 2 don't. So that's how that goes back in there. Alright, this looks to be a 10mm nut on here. Take that off. Now at this point, I'm going to be able to pull this off, but I got all these hoses and stuff on here, and this other hose that comes up to the gas tank that we just put on stuff. So I'm going to take all those hoses off. I'm also going to take my gas line and lift it up, put it back in the gas, lift it up and put it up here in the gas tank, so that that way I don't end up draining gas all over the ground. Now remember, this hose here, it barely fit. So it's on this plastic piece pretty tight. Let's see if I can work it off carefully without breaking the plastic piece. Alright, so there's one more nut on this air cleaner to get it loose right there. And again, that appears to be a 10mm, but my wrench won't fit in there, so I'm going to have to go get me a socket. Alright, so we got our nut and our air cleaner off. Alright, so once I got those bolts off, this whole carburetor is going to slide off. Now I still got a hose over here, and I still have these little springs. So we're going to take this hose clamp here, move it back, pry that hose off, and take those springs off. And I should be able to get at this, take the carburetor off, take it inside where I can get to it good, clean it off. So that is off. I am going to check and make sure that my gas is going through this thing too. It should be, although it doesn't look like it's flowing very good. Remember, I had to blow on the gas tank. Alright, so if I blow on it hard, it comes out, but not very good. So my guess is this is clogged up too. So we're going to take it off also, make sure it gets good and clean. Now this looks like it's an Allen key. So this is an Allen key, but I don't have one sitting next to me right now, and it's finger loose. Although now it's covered in gasoline. So I'm just gonna undo it here with this pair needle nose. Yeah, not the right tool for the job, but it's the right tool for right now. Alright. So we got that bugger loose. And we're gonna have to clean that out real good with some carburetor cleaner and stuff. Make sure it's functioning well. Because right now it ain't. These are some really hokey hose clamps on here. I bet you when I take this off, it's all going to be gunky on the inside of that tube. Look at that. You can't even see through it. We're seeing to it, it's all gunked up. Yuck. Alright, so I'll pull this spring off here. Alright, so if I pull that straight forward, this lifts straight up, so that's pretty easy. Alright, so time to take this guy here inside and get it all cleaned up. I'm not too worried about it because I know if I blow on the gas tank and get some gas in there, it's running. I just need to get it to where the gas is flowing instead of me blowing. There's a little pin right there, and I'll take that pin out, and then to get this float out of the way, I can get all this gunk out of here real easy. Alright, so we're just going to start with the old pocket knife and scrape some of this stuff out of here. A little gunk and rust. And if I was smart, I'd probably just buy me a new one of these. This O-ring's kind of gunky, but I'll probably put it back together just like it is, and it'll probably work, and I probably won't ever get around to replacing this O-ring unless I break it right now while I'm cleaning it. Get another 10 millimeter. Man, sucker's in there. I think it's rusted on. You can see it's rusted on. It don't want to come off. I seriously doubt this is going to help. Well, it is knocking some of the rust off. Oh, there it goes. Banging on with the hammer did help. See, the bolt's really not in that bad a shape. Alright, we'll get a wire brush in there. Finish cleaning that up. Pin out on this. That float comes loose. That little needle valve's probably all clogged up. And of course this stuff here is all gunky rusty. Alright, time to get some copper wire and run through some of these holes. Wire brush to this. Of course when we're done we'll spray this all down with some carburetor cleaner. Alright, so this isn't real smooth inside here. But all the stuff that's bound to flake off via wire brush is off, and the rest of it's attached pretty good, so we're going to call it done. This top surface though here is really rough. That's where that O-ring sets, so I think I'm going to run some sandpaper over that and smooth that up a little bit. Alright, so here's our fuel valve. Got some copper wire here. I also got out my drill index, and if I can find a drill that fits in there good like that, that's as good as gold. I can auger any of that stuff out. It's pretty tight there. I'll put the drill on it. Now I'm not going to drill, I don't want to drill maybe all the way in because I don't want to mess up whatever mechanism this thing has got inside there, but get some of that gunk out. Alright, so I've got the depth of this set to where I can't go no further than that, which that should be good. And I end up pushing my drill bit in anyway. Alright, let's try that again. Man, it's like chalk. Alright, I'm blowing into that and nothing's coming out. So we'll use the copper wire here. Let's see if we can further unobstruct this. You know, I don't want to damage it. Although at this point, you know, what's the worst I could do? Make it functional? Okay, we're getting some stuff on the wire, so. Alright, still nothing coming out. I'm going to go ahead and set this drill bit a little deeper. And see what we get. Lots of gunk coming out. Still can't blow through it. So I'm guessing I can go as deep as this thing here is. Alright, so that should certainly go into the bottom. I still cannot blow through that. Drilling these holes out, these tubes out, have not gotten me anywhere. So I'm going to move this back lots of times and put some carburetor cleaner in there and cross my fingers and hope for the best. If not, here's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to bypass the sucker. I won't have a fuel shut off, but that's okay. I don't ever shut my fuel off anyway, which is maybe why my gas tank rusted and stuff. Somebody will tell me if that's the case. Alright, we just blew through that. A couple chunks came out, but it's good. It's got air blows through it just fine. Alright, so next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to hook this tube up to this and blow in it and make sure that there's no obstructions for the fuel come out inside the carburetor. And it's blowing air through there just fine. Time to go get the carburetor cleaner and clean out this little needle valve and the carburetor and anything else, this fuel switch, and see if I can get some liquid flowing through this stuff. Alright, make sure you get this spring on the bottom of this, and it slides in this thing like so. and then it's springy. Alright, we got our good old can of gum out carburetor cleaner here. I'm gonna put the nozzle on, and you should always wear gloves when you do this. Don't do like Stu does. This needle valve actually looks pretty clean. Alright, this is the gas in the gas in port. I'm pretty much just spraying all the holes because I have no idea what I'm doing. But again, that one there works good. Alright, see if we can get this guy fixed here. If not, again, I'm just going to bypass it. And you can see it don't want to do nothing, folks. Alright, so we're going to bypass this valve. Alright, we'll put this all back together, see if it'll fire up. So we got our little spring, goes on the bottom of that valve, and then it pushes up through there, and seats like that. And then that's going to go in here, and we got our little pin. It's going to go in that hole. Line that float up. Push. There we go, that's on. Put our little rubber gasket on. I don't know if it makes any difference. I don't think it does which way that goes, but that screw, that bolt, was facing this way. I said I don't think it makes any difference, but I'm going to put it back on that way anyway. So we'll put this bolt back on. Alright, and then we got our bolt here to hold the bowl on, and we may as well attach that now, we don't have to do it later. Again, these are both 10 millimeters, in case you're wondering. Slide this on, see if it works. Alright, so we got a carburetor here. Now if you remember right, this went on with the this part here. It rotates in the back, and this here's your choke. It points towards the front. So we're going to slide this back on, and our gasket here still looks good, so we're just going to reuse that. Slide this back on. Now, you know, probably should really get your carburetor rebuild kit, some new gaskets, all that kind of stuff, but if you're homesteading it, you know, this might be your only option. So put the spring back on here. Some engineer somewhere said it needed a spring right there, and it's a pretty flimsy spring, but we'll put it back on there. Alright, so that's back there. Now the next thing we need to do is we need to put our air filter back on. If you remember, one nut went there, and then over here one nut went there. So we're gonna, oops, before we do that, we need to put this gasket back in place. It's a big metal gasket, and if you notice, there's a notch here, and a notch here, and those are going to allow access to those two holes right there. So that's the way it goes on. And then we'll put our air filter back on here, and then our two bolts, and then this one here, I just put my bolt there in my my driver. That way I can, makes that easy. Tighten both of those up. Alright, now remember I said that this had two holes. Those line up with the two dots right there. The two nubs on those posts. And then this goes over the top. And then there are two notches right there. Those fit on these two tabs. And then this goes in at the bottom. We got this hose here. I'm going to put it back in its hole. And then we got this hose here. We'll run it up around the carburetor. I need to put my clamp back on there. Alright, need to put my hose back on this tube here. Now we have this retaining wire here, and I'm going to go ahead and put it back on because it will help hold these out of getting snarled in my pull rope here. And if you'll remember right, this was a Allen wrench that I didn't have the Allen wrench out here for, but I will go get it before I run this thing. But that's finger tight right there. One more piece to go, and that's the gas line. So we've got our gas line here, and the trick is to see if it's long enough to go to the carburetor, and it is. It's just long enough. So all I need to do is put a clamp on that, feed it down here. We've got gas coming out all over the place, so that's a good sign. And then reach in here and tighten up the hose clamp. Alright, it's leaking from somewhere. I think it's leaking from around the bowl. Alright, all I did was take that off and reseat it, and it seems to have fixed the leak. So now the moment of truth to see if this thing will run. Now, you also want to make sure you check your on-off switch. See, there's an off and on position, and that switch is located right over here on the right side of your motor. Alright, so I guess it's time to actually order a carburetor rebuild kit. Alright, so I was going to order a rebuild kit, and for 15 bucks you just get the whole stinking carburetor. It's not like, I guess, building a car carburetor. Anyway, this is what they sent me, and I gotta tell you, I wasn't real sure if this was going to be the right one because the part numbers didn't match up and stuff, but this looked like it was the right thing, and so I went ahead and ordered it, and sure enough, on every detail that's important, they're the same. Obviously a little bit different in the molding here and stuff on this one versus that one, but otherwise they are exactly the same. This is the one you got to have if you're working on a earthquake. This particular one came with some other plates which I don't need. Came with the gaskets, a little piece of hose, a fuel filter, even came with a spark plug. Alright, so we got to find the right gasket for this. Alright, so I'm going to compare the old gasket with the new gasket. So it looks like I need this one. Alright, now on this front gasket we had this big clunky metal gasket, and let me see here, it went on there like that, and we've got a new one here that will go on like that. Alright, so I think before I put this on, I'm going to go ahead and attach my fuel line here, because it's easier to get to while it's out there like that. Since it came with a little fuel filter, I'm going to go ahead and put that on here too. I'm just going to splice it in here where it fits midline. And if you remember right, we took the inline fuel filter out because it was all clogged and no good, and I got another one here, and I'm going to put it in line. I'll put it after the fuel filter. And since they gave me a little bit of hose, I'm going to go ahead and use that. Alright, I'm going to steal some oil from my dipstick again here. Make it a little bit easier to put this hose on. Not sure that clamp is going to expand enough to go over that. Yeah, I don't think so. I think we're going to have to add a hose clamp, a worm clamp. And since I don't want to have to take this off again, I'm going to take the hose off down here at the carburetor and put my worm clamp on. Alright, so now we should be ready to take our fuel line from our fuel tank and put this on here. And then attach this back onto the carburetor. I'm going to cut this hose is too long now, since I've added the extra hose with the fuel filter and the shutoff valve, so I need to take a section of it out here. Alright folks, looky there, we're in business. We did it. Didn't have the right parts, didn't know the right parts, but we figured it out. You can too.